Hello again, everyone. As you probably know, the entire nation has baseball fever right now. We are in the midst of the World Series Game 6 on Tuesday. We'll see if the Rays can keep it going. And I have the honor and privilege to talk to two of the very best baseball players on the planet, Josh Donaldson of the Minnesota Twins, Carlos Correa of the Houston Astros. By the way, the 2015 AL MVP and the 2015 American League Rookie of the Year right here with us. And wouldn't you know it, we're not here to talk about baseball. We're talking about everything but baseball. Specifically, we're talking about mixed martial arts because these are two of the biggest MMA fans that I know, especially in the sporting world. And on Saturday, as Khabib Nurmagomedov won, Josh Donaldson in particular was flooding my timeline with all kinds of hot takes regarding who the greatest fighter of all time is. And I know how Carlos feels about this particular topic as well, because he was tweeting about it too after Khabib's win over Justin Gaethje. So I thought we'd have a little debate here. Everyone's talking about debate these days between two of the best ball players on the planet, talking about who's the best MMA fighter on the planet. So first off, Josh, long time no speak, my friend. How are you doing?
Everything's doing well. Trying to stay warm here in Minnesota still right now. We're expecting our first child, so get a lot of good things going on.
Congratulations on that. Early congratulations. I know it's a very exciting time. And Carlos, we talked not that long ago. I'm sure you're happy about your guy Khabib winning. Everything good since the last time we spoke, like 3 days ago?
Absolutely, everything good. I want to say congrats, Josh, on your baby. That's awesome. Yeah, everything is good, brother. We're here, in Houston, relaxing a little bit after the postseason and enjoying all these great events that the UFC is putting together.
Yeah, and I noticed you training with crew Bob Perez, most notably the trainer for Lauren Murphy and Derek Lewis. You and Lance McCullers as well. So you guys are kind of backing up your talk. Now you're getting into the gym and actually training MMA.
Yeah, we're trying to get our black belt in jiu-jitsu. So we got to start training here in the off season. During the season, we can't do it. So it probably will take us 30 years to get a black belt, but here we go.
Okay. Well, good luck on that journey. And this is a lot of fun as well because the Twins played the Astros in the wild card round. We won't bring up how that went down.
I didn't play.
Okay, that's true. So it didn't matter.
I wasn't involved in that game. Okay.
That's true. Okay, so Josh, I want to start with you because you kind of ignited all of this. So Khabib wins on Saturday. He beats Justin Gaethje, and afterwards he retires. He says, "I'm done." And there's a lot of talk about him being the GOAT, him being the greatest of all time. You strongly, and correct me if I'm categorizing this the wrong way, you disagree with this notion. You don't feel like he's the GOAT. You have a different answer to this query. Is that right?
Yeah, I have, several takes on it. Now, first off, I'm going to say Khabib. Do I think Khabib was a great fighter? Yes. I think he's been very dominant. But the reason I don't think he's the GOAT, I mean, when you look at Jon Jones's record, and I know he has some stuff on his track record, I don't really know all the details of it, but I know that he got suspended for it.
Mm-hmm.
With that being said, if you just look at his track record, 15 title defenses, the guy is absolutely amazing, not just on the ground, but in stand-up. And he's been tested a few times. You've got to see his chin, where I don't think we've really seen Khabib's chin. And also, Bones has got that type of confidence about himself and his game that how many times have we seen Bones Jones, if somebody's biggest strength was on the ground, like he takes him to the ground and just mollywops him on the ground. If their stand-up, if their strength is stand-up, he strikes with them. And then, look at the front kicks that he's got, the side kicks, people have really, the spinning elbow has been something that's legendary in the sport. And a lot of guys have taken from.
So your pick is Jon Jones. You say that it's quite easy. It's Jon Jones for the best fighter of all time pick. Carlos, what do you make of what Josh just had to say?
Well, he has a great argument, but, Jon Jones is definitely one of the greatest of all times. And, when we said to talk about this debate was all your tweets saying Khabib says all he wants is to be considered the number one pound for pound fighter in the world. Josh Donaldson said, Jon Jones, not even close. And you said I had him up one until this fight. So I'm here to talk about the pound for pound best fighter in the world right now. Because when you talk about GOAT status, you know, it's a complex conversation because a lot of people will bring in GSP. A lot of people will talk about Jon Jones. Some people might say Khabib. Some people want to say Anderson Silva. So you got, you know, those four guys in the mix. So that's a complex conversation. But pound for pound, best fighter right now. I go with Khabib. Why? When you look at pound for pound fighters, I look at right now, I look at the last three opponents they both faced. You know, Jon Jones faced Dominic Reyes, a former football player that made a transition into MMA not long ago. A lot of people had him losing that fight. I had him losing that fight. I don't know how you had your scorecard, Ariel. I had a 3-2, Dominic Cruz. Okay, the judges in Houston obviously don't know much about MMA, so they gave Jones the decision, 3-2. Then he fights Thiago Santos, former middleweight that goes up to light heavyweight. And yes, he's a beast. He's a monster. He fought with 2 torn ACLs, lost by split decision. Jon Jones won the split decision. Some people had it close. I had it Jon Jones. I had Jon Jones winning that fight. Close decision. Then he faced Anthony Smith, who I respect, and he's a great commentator, a great fighter. But the last win he had was against the intruder that came into his house. And he beat him by decision, right? And if I was Anthony Smith, after that illegal knee, I would have played dead and gotten my title right there. Yes. But he didn't. He's flying hard. He fought. He lost by decision. When you look at Khabib fought 3 guys that are currently in the pound-for-pound list in the UFC. You got Conor McGregor, the double champ. You got Dustin Poirier, and you got Justin Gaethje. He did not leave it to the judges. He did not have any split decisions. He lost only 1 round to Conor McGregor, and he finished these guys. These guys are absolute beasts right now in the pound-for-pound list of the UFC. Anthony Smith, Thiago, and Dominic Reyes, I respect them a lot, but they're not at that level where you can consider them pound for pound best fighters in the UFC right now.
So, Josh, he said pound for pound right now. It's Khabib. As you may have seen, Jon Jones has taken exception to this. He has gone on Twitter himself and has said, hey, what are you talking about? I won X amount, all that stuff. What do you think of pound for pound right now? Is it Jon Jones in your mind as well?
Right now, I mean, I think it's, to me, I think you have to factor in Jon Jones in his prime. I think we could probably agree right now that Jon Jones, I don't know if he's on the outskirts of his prime or not. You know, I feel like if we look at Bones' prime numbers, it's not even close. I know that he has, and that's kind of where I was going from, like Jon Jones prime, pound for pound at that moment of his prime versus Khabib's prime. And I mean, I think when we look at Khabib though, also like Khabib is not an active fighter. He's not an active champ. Like he goes and fights once a year. And I mean, there's been some times where Jones has had suspension. That's not because he didn't really want to fight. And I don't know if he got vindicated or not. I know I read somewhere where he said he got vindicated from that. I think that maybe there's some controversy there as well. I'm not sure. I'm not in that inner ring. But at the same time, with Khabib, why I think I'm so strong against Khabib as the pound for pound is because he's a wrestler. Like he's the best wrestler in MMA, and in his style, it's such a different style of wrestling than probably a Cormier's wrestling, and who I know that you're good friends with, and I know Daniels respects Khabib a lot as well. I like guys that this is MMA, this is mixed martial arts that can do all of it. I've never seen Khabib just stand in the ring with a guy.
He knocked out McGregor.
Well, McGregor has no gas tank, and I'll tell you this. I was one of the biggest McGregor fans ever, right? But when I heard McGregor say this is just a business in the ring against Khabib, like his heart wasn't in it to fight. Like he wasn't. I would have rather. I think it would have been a better fight if, and I'm not saying he would have won. It would have been a better fight if Khabib would have fought Conor before he fought Mayweather. Because I think Conor got relaxed, and I think he was like, hey, you know, I'm just going to come and get another payday. And that's what he said. It's just a business. Like, that's how I interpreted that. And so for me, none of us have ever seen Khabib knock a guy out. We've seen him take a guy down, choke him out, submit him, armbar, whatever, that he does. And to me, we've seen John Bones take guys down to the ground, beat them. The guys Cormier, Olympic wrestler. I mean, he owns them. And I know there's controversy there behind that, and we could all talk about that. But I'm just getting into what is on paper, and we've seen it all. We've seen the stand-up. We've seen the takedown defense. We've seen probably in my opinion, one of the greatest fights of all time between him and Alexander Gustafsson. That's still one of my top fights of all time.
So what do you make of that, Carlos? Khabib is just a wrestler, Josh says. What's your response to that?
Oh, I think Khabib is very well-rounded. He stood toe-to-toe with Conor McGregor. He stood toe-to-toe with Justin Gaethje, the guy that put the boogeyman, the guy that had 12-fight win streak, the guy that everybody thought was going to kill Justin Gaethje.
How did he win?
Who?
How did he beat Gaethje?
No, listen, Gaethje put Tony Ferguson in a body bag for 5 rounds. This is the guy that everybody thinks if the fight's going to be on the feet, Khabib is in trouble. If Khabib can't take him down, Khabib is in trouble. Khabib couldn't take him down the first 2 times he tried in the first round, and he stood there and he outstruck him 24-22 on the feet. So you're telling me that Khabib's just arrested when he's outstriking the guy that put Tony Ferguson in a body bag for 25 minutes, and on top of that, he goes second round and he starts on the feet and he lands a couple strikes. And when he said, okay, I'm done with this, it's been too long, let me take him down and submit him. If Khabib is such a pro that when he takes people down, he mauls them. He hits them with elbows. He hits them with punches. He didn't want to hurt Justin Gaethje. He just took him down, went straight to the triangle choke, and choked him out. Nice and easy. He inflicted no damage in Justin Gaethje. Gaethje can fight next month if he wants after coming off a loss like that because he had no damage inflicted. You know what I mean? So I think Khabib is well-rounded. And when you talk about Jon Jones on his prime, all right, let's look at his prime versus Khabib prime. Khabib faced Conor during his title reign, faced Dustin Poirier during his title reign, faced Justin Gaethje. 3 straight-up killers, right? When you talk about Jon Jones and the names he mentioned on Twitter, it's great legends, people that paved the way for the sport to be where it's at right now. But the truth is that when he fought these guys, they were not on their prime. They were past their prime. You look at Vitor Belfort, he was champ in the division in 2004, no defenses in the division. He fought Jon Jones in 2012. I mean, that's a long stretch. And yeah, he was a great champion, but at the time he fought Jon Jones, he was not the same guy that he was back in when he was on his prime. You got Lyoto Machida. Lyoto Machida was a middleweight. He went up to face Jon Jones. Lyoto lost 4 title shots in a row. Had 2 losses in his last 3 fights before facing Jon Jones. You can scratch that name too. He's a legend, but he's not at the level of Poirier, Conor, or Gaethje. Rashad Evans, champion 2008, 0 defenses in that. Fought Jon Jones 3 years later in 2011. Won 2 fights of the last 9 that he had during that stretch where he fought Jon Jones. Had 9 fights and won only 2. So when you put all these names that are legends, when they fought Jon Jones, they were not on their prime. So, the talent of Jon Jones just took over, controlled the division, and he just demolished all these guys. But the truth is that the level that he was beating at the time compared to the level that Khabib is beating right now and the way he's doing it, because Gustafsson, when he fought Gustafsson, the odds were the same as Gaethje and Khabib. And it was a split decision. It's a fight that we all gonna remember. It's in the Hall of Fame right now. But it was a split. It was a close decision. It was maybe an unanimous decision, but it was a close decision. Khabib, with the same odds, just demolished everybody. Everybody just out cold.
But here's my argument to that. My argument is because Jones is probably as disciplined as what Khabib is saying, hey, this is my strength. I'm going to use it. I'm going to, because I think all of us know that Jon Jones is a world-class wrestler if he wants to. If he wanted to be boring, if Jon Jones wanted to be a boring fighter, he'd go and wrestle guys down, take him down, submit him.
So you're saying Khabib is boring?
I think Khabib is one of the most boring fighters in the world.
No, don't tell me that. Don't tell me that.
I'm on record as saying it right now. He's one of the most boring fighters because A, This is why. He is dominant on the ground. I'm giving that to you. You win. You win. I'm agreeing with you with that. He is the most dominant on-ground fighter in the world. But Khabib, although he's touching Gaethje, he never hurt Gaethje on his feet. And when you're talking about Gaethje and you're talking about Tony Ferguson took a lot of punishment, but they were on the feet. None of them were trying to threaten to the ground. As you know, being in mixed martial arts, I've done some MMA stuff. With the threat of being taken down, especially against Khabib, and this is why I think it happened to Conor as well. When you get so worried about being taken down because you know how powerful Khabib is, and he doesn't stop. Like your point earlier where he said, he went the first time, he went the second time. Everybody knows that it's not Khabib's going to keep going for it over and over and over and over again. When you get that, that's when, and with Conor, I question Conor's gas tank. He got clipped a little bit, and we all know Conor has a chin. I just don't think his heart was in that fight. That wasn't Conor in his prime. So to me, that's not a pound for pound best fight. Like, to me, that's not a pound for pound best fight. Both of them, because they both weren't on their A game at that time.
Do you think Gaethje is boring?
Is it Khabib's fault? No, that's not Khabib's fault. That's just my opinion. No, I think Gaethje's. I love Gaethje. I told you I was hoping that he won before, because I thought Khabib. I thought he would be able to. I'd heard his game plan. He was going to do the calf kick and hopefully slow him down on the ground, and then hopefully laying some blows. But Khabib's smart. Like you said, he's a professional. He's dominant in that area. If Khabib would have knocked Justin Gaethje out, we'd be having a different story. This
Justin Gaethje is not boring. Justin Gaethje is not boring, right?
No.
Do you see how he was running away from Khabib? But then you call Khabib boring and not the guy that was running away from him boring?
Yes. Yes, that's it. That's exactly
he was running
right.
away from Khabib. Khabib was on his face the whole fight, and he's running away from him. But Khabib is boring, and Gaethje is not boring.
Yes, because of the fact that he's not running away from him from striking. He's running away from him to so if he goes to take for the takedown that he can get away. It's a tough style, like I said.
Josh, let me ask you.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to ask you because I want to expand on this. Khabib's last 3 fights have ended in finishes, right? In submission, which you know he's great on the ground submission against 3 great fighters, right? Conor, Dustin, Gaethje. Jones's last 3 fights were decisions. So I feel like a fan listening to this at home is going to give you heat and be like, how could you say the guy who's getting finishes is boring compared to the guy who's eking out decisions is more exciting than that guy? How is that possible?
To me, why it's possible is because Jon Jones doesn't just stick to one style. Like, if I wanted to watch wrestling, I'd turn on the TV and say, hey, I want to watch wrestling. But he's
not just wrestling, right? He's going for finishes. But if you want to
watch boxing, you'll go watch boxing because you want people getting knocked
out,
or kickboxing.
I want to watch it all. I want to watch wrestling. I want to watch stand-up. I want to watch counter punches. I want to watch guys being aggressive.
You want to watch Khabib?
No, I just don't think that's him because Khabib doesn't go for the striking stand-up to knock guys out. When he finishes guys with punches, it's after he's mauled them on the ground. You know what I'm saying? Versus Jon Jones can knock guys out with a kick. He can knock guys out with a spinning elbow. Although he hasn't lived up to it his last couple fights, I think personally too, I don't think we're going to see the best of Jon Jones until he moves up to heavyweight.
Why?
Because I think he's too comfortable right now.
That's fair.
And to where Jon Jones and to give credit to Jon Jones here, he's so smart too. He knows how to play the points game to where he can get those decisions that, and he's a bulldog in there. I feel like, his heart, we've seen his heart several times. He's left it in the cage several times. to where he's went 5 rounds. I can't remember a fight that Khabib's went 5 rounds because he's been so dominant on the ground.
Carlos, can I ask you this? Jon Jones won the belt in 2011. Yes, he's had the incidents that that Josh brought up, but in terms of losing a fight in the cage against another human being, he has not, right? He has not. The pressure cooker that is being UFC champion to defend the title that many times, as opposed to Khabib, who technically only defended it 3 times and has been champion for 2.5 years. Don't you have to say something about what Jon has done for almost a decade, as opposed to a guy who really has only done it for the past 2.5 years?
No, absolutely. You know, and I respect what Jon's been able to do. But like when we mentioned those names again, the former champs in the division, the Lyoto Machidas, the Vitor Belfort, like I said, they were past their prime. This is the same as Khabib fighting right now, BJ Penn, Eddie Alvarez, Anthony Pettis. It's the same.
Not fair.
Champions that are past their prime. If he were to fight all these guys and defend the belt against these guys, he would have 10 more defenses. But no, he called it quits. If he would have fought 3-4 more times, which for me, there's nothing left for him in that division. If he would have fought 3-4 more times and defended the title 3 more times, he would have been everybody's GOAT. But he decided not to do that. So this is all we got. This is the data we have. We have the 4 title fights, the 3 defenses, and the way he did it. I go with the dominance. You know, if you want to go for title fights, then yeah, it's an easy pick. Jon Jones is the GOAT. But the truth is, in boxing, Manny Pacquiao is the only guy that went to win championships in 8 different divisions. Does that mean he's the GOAT? No, he's not the GOAT of boxing. Just because he won the most championships in different divisions doesn't make him the GOAT. So it depends on how you look at the argument. That's why I said the GOAT talk is a little complex. But if we talk about right now, Khabib is the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world. And if you look at the Jon Jones fight against Thiago Santos, when we're talking about boring and exciting, he was landing leg kicks for 5 rounds. He didn't engage. He didn't take risks. He didn't go to try to go for finishes. The fight was literally leg kick, leg kick, leg kick, leg kick, leg kick for 5 rounds. And he won a decision 3-2, lost in 1 judge's scorecard. So for me, that's boring. When I see a guy leg kicking and keeping the distance, taking no risk for 25 minutes, I fall asleep. But when I see a guy trying to go for the finish every time, mauling his opponents, when I look at Conor's face, Poirier's face, Gaethje's face when they're on the ground, that they're gasping for air. When I see Dustin Poirier go to the corner and say, "Coach, he's leaving me no space. I don't know what to do." When I see Justin Gaethje going to the corner and Terrell Whitman telling him, "You got to slow it down." And he's like, you know, when I see that in people's face, that tells me right there that the force they're facing is unbeatable right there.
Josh, can I ask you something in reply? Right now, let's say right now, because pound for pound is all about, you know, if we were all the same weight, right? If we all met at 185, let's say, if Jon, you know, if everyone was the same weight, who would win? Who's the better man, right? Who's the better fighter? So right now, if we put Jon Jones and Khabib same weight, so we're not talking about, okay, let's say 205. Let's say Khabib now gains 50 pounds, right? Because it has to be fair. And they're in their prime. Who wins that fight, in your opinion?
It's not even close to me. Jon Jones. And why? Because Jon Jones is what, 6'8", 6'7"? Is that,
no, he's like 6'3". 6'3". 6'3", 6'4". He's out my height. I took a picture with him. He's out my height.
I'll double check that while you give the rest of your argument.
6'4". I got it right here.
Okay.
He's 6'4". So he's 6'4", but he's got an 84-inch reach. To me, Jon Jones has the ability to wrestle with anybody. We saw it with Daniel Cormier, or Cormier, however you want to say his name. I mean, Cormier's he's an Olympic wrestler. The difference is it's a different type of fight. It's a different type of wrestling. And I've heard stories of Khabib, like he fights with guys much heavier than him right now, and can you know, win probably pretty easily with that. I just think, in my personal opinion, Jon Jones could defend against it, and he's got those nasty knees. He's got nasty leg kicks. He can work in tight with the elbows, the spinning back elbows. He has more tools in his toolbox to finish guys, to win by decision, versus Khabib. He's gonna, if he can't take, we haven't seen this yet. This is why Carlos' argument holds up a little bit for mine. And that's because we haven't seen someone that's able to withstand him taking him to the ground yet. We haven't seen it. And that's why the argument is interesting. But we have seen Jon Jones finish in so many different ways. And his last 2 fights have been disappointing. Yes, I'll agree with that. But at the same time, he's been the champ for 10 years. The dude's bored. Like, he's bored. That's my, and at the time he's thinking about, like, oh, I could probably win this fight, not take too much damage, do that. All right, I'm thinking about the longevity of it. Where it could be, maybe he knew. I mean, obviously I heard what he said about his father, that he's going to quit because he can't do that. And I respect that. But I mean, who knows how long Khabib really thought about fighting anyhow, it would be my question. Where Jon Jones, like, he's there. If he's not suspended, he's ready to fight.
All right, so when it comes to a pound for pound, I got something real quick.
And I also want you, Carlos, to answer the same question after this, if you can. Who wins if they were both fighting right now at the same weight?
All right, so I got to say, you talk about Jon Jones' 10 years of title reign, and we're talking about the pound for pound right now, but it's the same, which this guy I respect so much, and he was my idol growing up. Albert Pujols was his best player in the game for 10 years, in the 2000s. Just 3 MVPs, and he should have had like 6, but Barry Bonds was in the National League as well. That doesn't mean he's the best player in the game right now because of what he did in the past. So when I talk about pound for pound right now, I put my trust as the best player right now because of what he's doing now and the way he's been dominating now. And that's why I put Khabib just ahead of Jon Jones because of what's happening right now. But when you talk about the GOAT status, then it's complex. But if they fought at the same weight, Ariel, you said if they both fought at 205, if they fought at 205, Jon Jones will win. But if they fight at 155, Khabib is going to win because Jon Jones got to cut all that weight. And he's not going to be able to cut all that weight.
Okay, well, no, I'm not saying that, like, that would be impossible. I'm just saying if you take their skill set.
Their styles?
You take their styles. I'm surprised to hear you say that. I thought you would have said Khabib would win.
Well, if I put the styles, let me say it like this. If I had to bet my house and my entire life on somebody to win a fight, I pick Khabib. 100%. 100%. I pick Khabib.
So you're saying he wins. He wins.
He wins.
He closes the distance. He takes him down. He does his thing.
The difference between Olympic wrestling, Ariel, we talked about this last time. We talked about Gaethje in Division 1 wrestling. It doesn't matter. The way Khabib puts it all together, the way he trips you, nobody does it like him. Nobody in the whole game. We've never seen anybody do it like him. Even GSP. GSP will shoot the double leg and take you down. But some people might be able to stuff it. With Khabib, nobody can stuff that because he grabs you while you're trying to sprawl or scramble. He's tripping you in some way. And you saw it with Justin Gaethje. As soon as he took him down, that he put his hands in the mat, he was already on his back. It just happens too quick. So he's been working on this for so many years. He's black belt in judo. His jiu-jitsu is great. He puts it all together so well that I think once the fight hits the mat, nobody can stop that.
Josh, let me ask you, here's the one thing. See, I actually think the GOAT is George St. Pierre. And it has nothing to do with the fact that we're both from Montreal. It's just because I think he did it the best.
You're a homer, bro. You're a homer.
Listen, and he went up and he did the one thing both those guys didn't do, and that's get a second title. Neither of them have tested themselves up. I'm sorry, but neither of them.
Come on.
Hey, listen.
Ariel, come on.
Them's the facts. What are you trying to say about Michael Bisping right now? Them's the facts.
I'm saying he handpicked his opponent.
Bisping was blind in his right eye.
Listen, Bisping had the belt. He went up and took it. So let me ask you this. Would you guys agree, and I'll start with you, Josh, if Jon Jones moves up, and that's what he says he's doing, and gets that title, right, beats the winner of Stipe versus Francis, is it game over? Like, you can't say anything anymore? That should solidify it, right?
I think I think we're going to see the best version of Jon Jones when he does that.
You think he moves up and gets it?
Yeah, I think I've been wanting Jon Jones to move up for a while. Obviously, Jon knows more than I do, but he knows that those heavyweights, there's one hitter quitters in there for anybody. Anybody can get it. And with that being said, look at what Jon Jones, Daniel Cormier beat Stipe. Now, with the controversy, I know that's there. And
Yes.
it's hard to not say.
And, you know, it doesn't always work like that, right? Styles make fights.
Styles do make fights. That's what I'm saying. Like, Daniel Cormier is an Olympic wrestler. You're bringing up Gaethje, who was a college wrestler. There's levels to this thing. That's like comparing high school baseball to the major leagues. Like, what do we like? It's probably not that far off, but there's still levels to that. The wrestling game. Khabib is at the top level of his style of wrestling, and in my opinion, probably of all of wrestling right now. I mean, you look at all the guys that are coming from his area that are dominant in that form. It's a lot. There's a lot of guys that are coming out of it. I think, to add on to my point, if we would have seen Khabib become more of an active fighter, somebody would figure him out. He hasn't fought enough for me to sit here and say, hey, look, just as you said about Gaethje fighting and could fight next month, Khabib never gets hit. He could fight every 3 months if he wanted to, but he doesn't want to. He takes no damage. He takes no damage. But he doesn't want to fight.
So what do you think, Carlos? If Jon goes up, does that solidify his spot as the number one pound for pound king?
No doubt about it. And Jon Jones has been my number one for a long time. It's just the way that Khabib finished his career with these last 3 fights. Just put him just right there with him. You know what I mean? And like I said, a lot of people might have different opinions, which is fine. And, you know, you can argue none of them are wrong because, you know, it's the way you see it. But absolutely, if he goes for the heavyweight, which I think he will get, because like Josh said before, he knows how to win. And I compare his style in MMA like Mayweather's. You know, if Mayweather was losing round 1, 2, 3, he'll adjust in the middle of the fight and win the fight. Find ways to adjust mid-fight. Jon Jones has been able to show that. Jon Jones has the range. He has the IQ. He has everything that you can wish for a champion. So I really believe that he's going to get that belt at heavyweight, keeping his distance, using his leg kicks and all that. And you can count with one hand the guys have clipped Jon Jones clean in his career. I mean, the guy is elusive. He doesn't get hit too much. So I think he'll get that belt, and he'll definitely be everybody's GOAT at that point. There's no debate of GSP, Jon Jones, Khabib, Silva. At that point, it's done.
The real GOAT of all GOATs in our fighting is Royce Gracie.
Well,
of MMA.
It's a different game.
I know it's a completely different game, but the guy was fighting 300 pounders at 150 pounds.
They didn't know what they were doing, but
I know they didn't, but you got to say that
they got it from the truck stop.
That's like saying Babe Ruth is better than, you know, I don't know, Mike Trout or something, or Mickey Mantle, or you know.
We could have that argument. I think those guys would have adjusted, but to bring it a little bit back to the point about Albert Pujols, the thing that's different about why the baseball argument's not completely valid is because in baseball, we're all fighting or playing against each other. You know what I'm saying? Versus MMA, excuse me, they're all fighting against the same group of guys the entire time. So you're not really, I don't have a choice whether or not I go up there, or Albert doesn't have a choice of fight or facing a pitcher that's throwing 101 that day. He doesn't have that choice. Versus Khabib has the choice in who he fights. To some extent, that's in his weight class. You know, and
once you're the champ, you fight the number one contender.
Yeah. I mean, it's sometimes that. I mean, he was the interim, or he left, and then there was an interim fight. All that jazz. Anyway, what I'm saying is Albert Pujols doesn't get choices like of a certain amount of guys. Where MMA, you're not fighting. That's why I think Jon Jones, and we got to put this into perspective, and I'm not saying Justin Gaethje or Conor McGregor do not have the ability to finish on their feet, because, I mean, Gaethje's awesome. I mean, he's
got like 95% finish rate.
Yeah, he's amazing. But at 205, there's a lot more variety of fighters that can hit you one time and it's over. And Jon Jones has withstood that. What's the old adage about standing up or boxing is you have a fighter or a puncher's chance. Like at 205, that chance gets a lot greater than I would say at 155. Not against Gaethje or McGregor, but a lot of those other guys that he had to get there.
All right. Guys, we will leave it at that. How about that? I've taken up a lot of your time. This has been a lot of fun.
Oh, this is awesome. I love it.
Yeah, we could go for hours here. I love the passion. I think fans will love hearing you guys, two incredible athletes talking about a sport that we love so much. So thank you so much. Carlos, I'd say to you, enjoy Game 6 tonight, but I know you're not going to watch because you told me you don't watch. Josh, are you watching or no?
Of course.
Who wins?
I think it goes to Game 7.
Okay.
I think the Dodgers win Game 7.
Okay.
Just for the fact they have more depth overall and they have more offensive power up and down the lineup.
Carlos, you're abstaining. No prediction.
Oh yeah, brother. I said since the series started, if the Dodgers don't win, it's because they choked, brother. I mean, when you look at the roster from top to bottom, starting pitching, bullpen, lineup, and the bench, they got great players on the bench. So if they don't win this year, brother, the window is closing for them. They might never win. So this is the year for them to win. They got a great team.
I love it. I love it, guys. Thank you so much. This has been a real honor and a pleasure. Josh, congratulations again and good luck with the baby coming. And we'll do it again soon. Perhaps when Jon Jones moves up to heavyweight, we'll revisit all of this. How about that?
I'm looking forward to it, guys.
Thank you for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.